Hey guys, happy holidays! I hope that you guys are all doing well, and if you celebrate Christmas, it's only less than a week away, so hopefully you have all of your Christmas shopping done. I do know some people leave it all to the last minute. I am not one of those people, so other people who do that stresses me out. Like, hello, you gotta get your stuff done and all wrapped, and what are you doing? What are you waiting for? So I am definitely all done. I've actually already given out a couple of my gifts to people I'm not going to see on Christmas, so gave it to them a little bit early. But I love Christmas. It's my very favorite holiday. I love giving gifts. I love the whole festivities of it. I dress up at work in holiday clothes and jewelry and all that, so I'm definitely a big fan of Christmas and always enjoy the season. My family always has quite a few traditions too, so hopefully we'll be able to do those this year and have a lot of fun. What are you guys doing for the holidays? Do you do anything special? Do you have any traditions or get excited about anything? I would love to hear what you're going to be doing for Christmas this year. And let's go ahead and get on to today's class. Welcome back, Fantasy Fiction Fanatics. It's great to see you again, and I hope you're doing well. Today's class is going to be chapters 6 through 10 of The Queen of Sorcery, which is book 2 in our Belgariad series. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the series and the book so far, and hopefully it is intriguing for you to continue following along and reading it with us. So let's go ahead and jump right in. We're going to start with our recap as always. So in this set of chapters, we have several bigger main events that happen, and one of the main things that happens right at the beginning of this set of chapters is the Algroth attack. So they're running away from these Algroths and hoping to get away alive. It's very difficult, but Mandoralin shows up and helps them out, and they end up being able to get away, and we find out that he is somebody who is coming to join their party. So we have yet another addition to our group. The only downside is during the attack, Leldorin was wounded. So he was pretty severely wounded. It was very possible that he could have died. And Pole, of course, nurses him to health, and they are taking him with them on their journey through a stretcher of some kind. And that's when they end up journeying to these two barons, the lands that meet, and they're in the middle of a war, and they're not able to really go around them. So they meet with these barons, and Mandoralin ends up solving the problem and solving their feud by fighting them on each side, each baron on each side, and beating them and saying okay, now you're made up, I've already bested you, we're good. Stop your fighting, and solves the whole conflict. And then because they were indebted, I guess, to Mandoralin and him helping them solve their feud, they let them keep Leldorin there to be able to rest and be nursed back to health. He's not very happy about being left behind, doesn't really want to be left in their care, but he understands that he is badly wounded, not able to travel quickly, and is causing the journey to slow down. So he goes ahead and waits there as everybody else continues forward. They are continued traveling, trying to continue after Zedar, and they end up seeing Brill and Asherak at one of their stops and have to evade them. They come up with a quick plan in order to keep them occupied so they can escape as best they can away from them. And then they go ahead and arrive to talk to the Membrate King. And Garon ends up revealing the plot to kill him in front of the Murgo, who is the person who has put this plot together and has coerced Leldorin and his cousin into joining his cause. And we stop, I don't want to say totally cliffhanger, but a little bit of a cliffhanger in the fact that at the end of this chapter, we are what's going to happen? Because he's revealed this, and the Murgo obviously knows at this point that he's going to be caught for his treachery, and we don't know what's going to happen with that. So yeah, there we go. That's the main points from this set of chapters, but we do have quite a bit of details that are revealed through these chapters. So it's kind of simple events that happen, but we really see some more in-depth things as we go through these 5 chapters. So let's go ahead and talk about the first thing that I wanted to talk about today, and that is world building. We actually have quite a bit of world building put in between these different events, especially with the traveling and stuff like that. It seems like maybe not a lot has happened or a lot has developed, but we really get to see a sense of more people, more about this world, more about what kind of place this is, especially the culture of the place that they are currently traveling in. And we can see how, they're different than the other people, what kind of different cultures live in this world, and how that affects, people that they meet, the events that are going to happen with them, all that kind of stuff. It all blends together. But the first thing we see is the Algroth attack. And the reason I really want to mention that as world building is because you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that this is the first real kind of creature that we have run into so far on our journey. So most of the time we've kind of been dealing with people, different types of people. As we go through the different places, we talk to the different kings, we've met the Murgos and the Grolems and their magic users and things like that. But we haven't really dealt with magical or unique creatures at this point. We've mostly been dealing with people. So it's very interesting that this world, who at this point has been focusing mainly on people, and it seems mostly humans as far as race is concerned, or species of type of being. It's mostly been human-based societies, and now we're seeing that there is actually non-human creatures that are very dangerous that you can come across while traveling. And we haven't seen that yet, so it's very interesting to be presented with this new piece of information about this world and what kind of creatures and beings can exist in it. So obviously they're very, very dangerous. They almost killed Leldorin, and they are very poisonous to anybody they attack. So it's very interesting kind of creature, not the kind of typical fantasy-based creature that we're used to. So that is definitely a very big piece of world building, and as we continue reading forward, we're going to see if there ends up being other creatures or other beings besides humans that possibly populate this world that we have not yet met or know about. Of course, with the mythology that we kind of have going, or the history that we have going in the prologues and things like that, haven't even mentioned much about, races, species of beings, or creatures, or dealing with anything other than the gods and the humans. And at this point, we're only dealing with the humans in the rest of the story. So we really are kind of going blind on what kind of creatures or animals or other things that might be populating this world. And now we've got kind of just a little bit of a hint that yes, there's more to this world than just the different cultures that we've been seeing. All right, and then we have Membrate culture. So obviously we have the Arryns and the Membrates and things like that. And we have the whole feud going on between them that's not really over. The Civil War is not actually over at all. But we kind of are seeing now more of the Membrate cultures, especially since Mandorellin has joined the party. Because we see him and what he's like, and we also see when we go to the Membrate King, we see some more that are like him, more knights and the king, and how they are presenting themselves. So we really see that they are kind of, in my opinion, the epitome of the old-time knights in shining armors. They have courtly values. I don't want to say, for example, if you've seen and talked with me with the Dragonlance series, it's not like those knights, in the fact that even though those knights had the code and the chivalry and all this kind of stuff, these knights or this culture is very much more based on like the very prim, proper, sorry, I'm drawing a blank on like how I want to say this, the prim, proper, old-time way of even speaking and even and acting and how they handle the situation. It's much more in your face, like old-time knight personalities than I feel like was in Dragonlance. So they don't have like a strict code per se that we have been introduced to, that like this is the way of life for them, but they all talk in the these and thous, the very prim, proper speech, very old-time knight court values. We've got the pledging of your word meaning so much to them, and the loyalty aspects and all that kind of stuff we kind of see as we are meeting Mandarellen and as we are seeing, the other Membrates that we are speaking with. And the same thing with like the knight that had the tree that Belgariad made. He pledges his heart to the and soul, basically, to the taking care of this tree, because that was what he said that he would do if Belgariad proved to him that he was who he said he was. So they're very prim, proper, and this is almost an extreme portion of the Knights of Old, and the code that they lived by has been kind of reworked into this culture here. So we really see these kind of people and how they act and what their culture is made of. It's very, very interesting, I feel like. We also see that they battle and duel, and that's how they solve problems. It's like, hey, we'll have a joust, and that will clear up any misunderstandings. If I beat you in a fight, I'm right. If you beat me in the fight, you're right. Or if I die, it was meant to be, or if you die, that was meant to be, or whatever else. So we really see the difference between, the other people we've seen so far and the other cultures we've seen so far, and this particular one. It seems like it's a extreme shift over to how they act and who this set of people are and the rules that they have formed for themselves. And we do see a bit of Tolnadron culture as well. It's kind of more of like a little bit of a blip when they go through, and we have that area that they're in where Brill and Asherak also see them, and they're going in and out of the tents in order to keep Brill focused on them. But we do know from Silk, because he has to interact with them, and he is back to being pretending to be a seller and a merchant. We see that he makes this comment that they are very strict about money, and money is very, very, very important to Tolnadrans, and their culture is much more based around money and how it works and faking people out, that kind of stuff. So that's also another little blip of a world building that we see. We're getting to know all of these different cultures, and it's very interesting because, with these set of chapters, we kind of transverse, rolling over again and again and again to new cultures and new cultures and new cultures, and we're kind of seeing how all of them are different, how they're similar, how they're all blended together in this one world, and really learning a lot about them. So it's very interesting that, we can have so many different little pieces put together. We have, what we were learning about for the Membrates, and we're seeing them a lot this chapter. But in previous chapters, we saw, the Tolnadrans, and we've seen the other places that we've been in the previous book, and everything is different, and it kind of just rolls forward, and we're just learning more and more and more about all these different people that exist in this world. And it's very interesting to see, like, Silk, who we see most of the, at least the aspects during the merchant stuff, like where he's going out and teaching Garon, like, oh, this is how this people are like, and this is how you can work with these type of people, is that we're learning a lot from him, the differences and the uniqueness for each of them. So how Silk and how everybody keeps it all straight is like, oh, the Cherriks are like this, and the Tonadrons are like this, and you should expect this from an Arnish person, and this is like a Membrate, all this different stuff. So we're really getting to see the big picture of this world, seeing the people who are in it, and exactly what place this is that makes it different than our own, and why these events would be happening in this kind of place. I always think world building is super interesting, and to see all the different people, to see what makes this world different, and the kind of people that would live here, and why events happen in this place as they do. I always think it's very interesting. So yep, that's for world building. Anything that you think I missed, anything that you think I'm off base on, anything at all you'd like to comment on that, go ahead and let me know down below. Would love to hear anything that you saw, or any world building that you think was more also important to mention. So let's go ahead and move on to character development. I feel like in this set of chapters, we see quite a bit of development from several characters. I really feel like we are moving forward, progressing with them, and that they are moving forward and progressing themselves as well. So we see them some of them in a new light, and we see more of them, and then we see also the characters that we already knew have more depth to them because we're learning new things about them. So let's go ahead and start off with Garon, because obviously he's one of our top characters here, one of the most important, in the fact that he is supposed to be the protector of the orb, even though he doesn't know that yet, of course. So I feel like in this set of chapters he's matured. Not saying that he's 100% mature. He's still young, and he still has a lot to learn and more to realize about himself. But I do feel like we see a bit more maturity in his decisions, as well as maturity in, you know, his bravery, and the fact that he makes hard decisions and is brave enough to stand by those decisions and make important calls for himself and for his own values. So he stays by Leldoran's side when he's hurt. He's not, you know, running away scared. He's not trying to shirk responsibility or anything like that. His friend has been hurt, and he stands by him. He's adamant about protecting him. He's adamant about helping him. He's adamant about doing whatever Eldoran needs, staying by him, worrying about him. So we really see the maturity of him, you know, during the time of him being hurt, him standing by him and being like, I'm going to help you and protect you and care that you're hurt and care for you, and to be like, hey, everyone else needs to care for you and get going, because I can't do the healing portion. But he really stands by him and really tries his best to help ease his friend's pain. And then we also see that he speaks up at this very end about this plot that's happening to kill the king. And he understands that this is the time to say it, and that it's important that he says this. He doesn't even let Belgariad deter him from speaking what needs to be spoken. It's a very brave decision. It's a very mature decision to be like, hey, this is the time to say this. Hey, I'm not going to wait till later to read the situation and to know that he needs to present the facts that he has. So that's one important piece. But also we can see the maturity in this sense, and the fact that he also stands by his promise to Leldoran by not giving away the information that is critical to believability. So the Murgo is saying, no, you're not correct. You're lying. You don't really have any sources. Why are you saying this? And the king is like, hey, can you tell me how you found out about this? Who knows? What's the situation? Obviously, you know more if you've heard this from somebody. But he stands by his word. He stands by what he said he would do, even though it would help prove his claim, in order to stick to Leldoran and the promises and the protection that he must give to his friend. which is a very, very mature thing to do. It's not like he feels not letting the pressure of being believed fall upon him. He's trying to find another way that doesn't involve breaking his word. And it also works very well in this situation because Korodulin is somebody who is a membrane and also really stands by his word and respects Garon for standing by his word to his friend. So that actually ends up working out in his favor, that he's not going to just sell somebody out, but that he said, I'm giving my word to not say anything. This is the situation I'm in, but I'm telling you this because you need to know that this Murgo is going to try and kill you and is not in good standing here. So we definitely see that maturity in those decisions and how he presents himself in these couple of chapters. And then we also see a little bit of growth from him in the fact that we see signs that he can kind of understand and sense the magic that's happening around him. So Pol has had to be like, stop Garon a couple times now. He's can feel when something is going to happen, when Pol or Belgariad are going to try and use some magic. And he also reaches out with his senses and tries to touch the magic or to understand it or to, be involved in it. So we really see that we're developing a connection to magic. This doesn't mean necessarily for sure that he's going to be able to use magic. We don't know if that's going to develop or not, but in many ways he's very smart because he's not being taught to do this, and he's just outwardly sensing, oh, this is what I need, this is what I'm feeling, and this is what this means. And obviously being enough of a presence that Pol understands that he's doing these things and having to chide him because he's blocking her way. So I think we're starting to see Garon mature a little bit, and him kind of, as he sees more of the world and he understands more of the world, we're really seeing how that is pushing him forward through these stories. And hopefully he will then be pushed forward to the place he needs to be at in order to do whatever role he has in this story as well. The next person I want to talk about just is very short. It's about Hitar. And Hitar we don't really know much about so far, but we do see at least some development based on our perception of him, by the fact that we learn that he absolutely hates the Murgos and despises them because his parents were murdered by Murgos. So that adds some depth, it adds some development, it adds another layer to Hitar who we don't really know yet. So for me, that really develops him a bit in the fact that he's not just hateful to be hateful. He does have a reason for his hate and why he wants to seek revenge on all these Murgos. So for me personally, it makes Hitar a little bit more tangible, makes him a little bit more touchable, makes him understandable, and his motives understandable. So Hitar is somebody who's very quiet. We know that he can speak to the horses, but we don't totally see too much of him at this point. But now we see a little bit more of him and we understand a little bit more of him. So I really wanted to just touch base on him and let us know, discuss that we actually are starting to see development of him in the fact that the author is letting us know who this person is, if that makes sense. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to Mandorellen. So obviously he joined us during these chapters, so you're probably thinking like, well, how can we have him as a developed character? Like, we're just learning about him now. But we really learn a lot about him. So that's why I wanted to touch base, because he comes into this, comes into our vision, he comes into our group here, and we start learning about him right from the start. We learn quite a lot about him in these 5 chapters and really get a sense of who he is. So even though, yes, he hasn't developed as in the fact that he was one way and then he's grown to another way like Garon, or like with the maturity development and such, but we really see the development of him as a character from our point of view. Like, we really get a sense of the author, Eddings, is teaching us who this person is very quickly, and where he's developing who this person is very, very fast for us to know. So he's very self-confident. That's the first thing you learn about him, is that he's very self-confident and almost almost arrogant in a way. Not that he's arrogant in the fact that he's trying to bolster himself up past where he is. He just knows how good he is and how amazing he is, and he's just not shy about being like, yeah, I'm all that in a bag of chips, so what are you gonna do about it? He understands his skills, he understands how famous he is, and so he's just very blunt about it, very upfront, very self-assured, and it kind of comes off a little bit as arrogance, especially in the way he talks. But really, a lot of it is just self-confidence, knows himself very well, understands his limits, understands himself and what it means to be in his position and what he can and cannot do. So it's a very interesting character to have, especially considering we have these other characters that are more, I don't want to say that they're not confident, because a lot of them are very confident in their abilities, but they're not really boastful about it or talk about it. They're more flying under the radar, not wanting to be, too loud about their abilities, except for maybe Silk. Silk does talk about how he is a very good merchant and spy and all that, but it's not quite the same boastfulness as it comes across with Mandarellum. He is an amazing fighter. Obviously, that's part of his confidence portion, is he knows he's an amazing fighter, and he doesn't lose very often, if at all. Very self-assured in that section. We've seen him fight a couple of people and win very easily, so we do see firsthand that he is a great fighter and that he solves problems with fighting based on that's just his culture and how he deals with things. Nothing wrong with that, but that is how we've come into play with him being an amazing fighter, is he's obviously had to train for that, and the fact that he does it quite often. And last but not least, we see that he's truly a good person. I don't know about you, but when he first comes into the book, first comes into the group and everything, and he joins, his boastfulness and his kind of almost arrogance blocks, I don't want to say blocks, but kind of muddies how, if he really is a good person or if he really is just arrogant. But as we progress through these chapters, by the end of chapter 10, for me personally at least, I feel like, man, this guy is such a good guy. Really, in the end, he's really a good guy, and he's very smart, and he's very loyal to his companions. We saw that with Leldoran, and the fact that he was very open and honest and being like, hey, you're slowing us down and we just want you to get help, and this is the situation. It's not me being mean to you. This is just me presenting with you with the facts. He's loyal in the fact that he doesn't, even though, Leldoran and him are at odds, especially on Leldoran's side, he's like, I'm going to push that away. I have no beef with you, and you're a companion, so I want to make sure that you're doing well. We see that he really respects everybody. He truly respects everybody. He puts other people and the respect of other people above what his own wants are, and the fact that he did fall in love with another man's wife and hasn't slept with her, doesn't do any kind of indiscretion with her, and distances himself from her because he understands that that is not proper. So he puts his own happiness aside in order to respect other people and to do the right thing. Obviously, it's a very tricky situation because she also loves him as well, and that is between the three of them, sort of. I mean, the marriage relationship and how that turns out is between the lady he's in love with and her husband, and he understands that he can't have what he wants, and so he puts that distance and is very respectful about it, doesn't want to do anything to hurt anybody. So we see he's got very good values in that. And at the end here, Garon is very concerned that Mandarellen probably figured out exactly how Garon knows about this and who's involved, and it being Leldorin. But he doesn't say anything. He stands by Garon's word and stands by the fact that Garon gave his word to Leldorin that he wasn't going to say anything. So he says, I cannot help in that department. If he gave his word, we're not going to tell you. But I can help fix the situation by doing this a battle with him and deciding it based on a trial of fighting, and I'll be the champion for Garon. So he stands by him without compromising Garon's word or compromising the importance of what Garon was saying and the fact that he wasn't going to tell the king who it was. So he's helpful and respectful, and even if it makes his life harder, he's going to try and make it so Garon can stand by what he's standing for. So really, he's a really great guy. And then we have Leldorin, who, even though he only was with us for a short time, and in this set of chapters he does end up leaving our party, I do feel like we see some growth, important growth from him as a character. And we never know. He hasn't died, as far as we know, so he might come back to join our party again. So I think it's important to acknowledge that Garon actually made a positive impact on him. As, you know, he mentioned, hey, this is not right with the serfs, and how they are being treated is not right. And he kept trying to have Leldorin look at the serfs and be like, look at how these people are being treated. And at first it seems like he's just hitting a wall, and it's not breaking through to Leldorin exactly what's happening. But now we see that he does acknowledge that the serfs, especially in that last area they were in, the area that they stopped in at the end of chapter 4, or end of chapter 5 and stay at the beginning of chapter 6, that he's like, man, these people are treated terribly. Like, actually, you're right. I see them. I've witnessed that there is a problem. And that's very important for Leldorin as a person. And we see that Garon's finally made some progress in the fact that he's brought it up and brought it up and brought it up. And finally we see Leldorin being like, oh yeah, you're right. This isn't good. This is not okay. And feeling bad that he has been ignoring the serfs situation for so long. We don't know if anything's gonna come of it, but at least we see that he is growing as a person, and he is understanding that the world isn't as black and white, or as perfect of a system as he thinks it is. And he also ends up telling Garon that he wants to call off the assassination. He wants to fix things. He wants to try his best to fix the situation that he's gotten himself into, and understands that what he is doing is wrong, and what he is doing is something that he shouldn't be doing, that he's been tricked. He tells Garon to tell the king and everything like that, and though, you know, Garon's like, I think you should be the one to do this. You should be able to take the responsibility. I'm not going to out you. You know, this should come from you. But obviously he's not able to do that. He's hurt. But he does tell him, like, hey, sell me under the bus. And tell the king, and tell Belgariad that this is what is happening, what is going on. Obviously Garon takes the middle road in the fact that he tells them without telling who was involved and saving his friend. But it does show a lot of growth from Leldorin, that he's like, hey, I'm taking things to a level that should not be taken to, that this is not actually right, or I'm not actually working toward a better future by just doing this assassination from a Murgo who can't be trusted in the first place. So I feel like, yeah, we have several different characters that we really get a good look at and really see them progress, or at least they progress in our minds because we see new aspects of them. I think we have with this book, we have quite a few characters, and they're all mixed together, and we get to see little snippets of them here and there. And we have a really good cast of people, I think. I think a lot of these characters are really great characters, and they're really different, and they really have their own problems, their own setbacks, and their own positivities. So let me know what you think of the characters, any growths, that kind of stuff. But just in general, like, who is your favorite so far? Do you have anyone in particular that you really like? Anything like that. I would just love to hear what you think about the characters in general so far, of what you know about them. Okay, and let's go ahead and move on to our next topic, which is story/plot development. So we really see in these sections some bigger developments as far as the main overarching storyline here. So the first thing we see that's very interesting is we see about the prophecy. So the Murren Codex is the prophecy that we're talking about, and we learn about the bear, the rat, and the man who lives twice. And so we see that this is a development in the fact that this is obviously important, and the Murgos are taking that prophecy seriously, and and Belgariad is taking it seriously, and he has it in his mind of what he's supposed to have involved in order to beat the Murgos. So we can kind of guess that the bear might be Barak, because we have that whole section from the last book where he is turning into a bear for that boar hunt and stuff like that. So we can see that possibly Barak might be the bear. We don't really know at this point who the rat or the man that lives twice is. Especially interesting for the man that lives twice, considering that means that he would have had to die in some sense. That might not be a literal sense, of course, not everything is that cut and dry. But what does it mean then to have a man that lives twice? Because, it's very unlikely that if he died that he's going to be able to come back, even in this kind of story. So who that's going to be, and maybe that is what the case is. Maybe it's going to be a person who died and came back to life. We're going to find out. But we really see that this is giving us more perspective, more development about this main plot of how we're going to defeat Torak, how we're going to defeat this evil god that we are working against. And so we really see a little bit of development in that as well. So that is very interesting. I would really like to know if you see any other main progressions. That was the main thing that I saw, was that we have this really big progression of knowing more about this prophecy. The last book was called Pawn of Prophecy, but we really didn't know anything about a prophecy. And now we're starting to find out more about that prophecy and what it entails. So I feel like that's a little bit of a push in this is where we're heading. This is what you need to look out for as a reader. We're now going to be like, okay, well, who is this considered as, and who is this considered as? How do we know? Who are they finding? What are they thinking? So it gives us a sense of a little bit of mystery of being like, okay, what's happening? What are we doing with this? And looking at a little bit more of the big picture of what they need to do and where we might be headed. Because at this point, Garon doesn't even know who he is. He doesn't know that he is the one that's supposed to help protect the orb. So obviously he's very, I don't want to say lost, because he feels like he knows what his place is, but really he doesn't. And that's also another progression that we're going to have to meet, is when he finds out who he truly is and what his role in all this is, how is he going to react to that? Okay, and then last but not least, I usually do nitty gritty at this point as the last little bit. But today, as the nitty gritty, I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit of some trends that I have noticed that we are repeating, or David Eddings is repeating through this story. I had two in particular that I just wanted to kind of point out. I think that it's interesting. We're going to see if those trends continue and that kind of stuff. So it is kind of a nitty gritty type topic that I usually do, just pointing out things that are interesting or things to keep in mind. But it's got a little bit more of a theme to it, because I picked out a couple of things that deal with trends that we have had going through these this first book, and so far these first chapters of the second book. And the first thing is that we seem to have Murgos in every single section that we're going to. We see Murgos at every stop they make. They are there trying to mess up or trying to overthrow the king or the government or something. They're trying to either get in the good graces of the government, they're trying to cause chaos, they're trying to overthrow or kill a king. Every single stop they have has some kind of Murgo trying to be buddy-buddy with the royalty that they visit. Which is very interesting. Obviously that might be part of the plot that Torak and Zeder and all of them are trying to set up in order to win. That might be their strategies to try and get to everybody before Belgariad can do so. They're not working very well. But all these Murgos also have gotten followers from this area to help them in their plot. So, we had, Asherak when he came, there was already a Murgo working with exiled noble that really wanted revenge. And so Asherak was working with that noble and trying to overthrow the Cherry King. Here we have also a Murgo who wants to try and ingratiate himself with the king, and he is plotting on the side with, Leldoran and his cousin and these other people to kill him. So it's very interesting that we are constantly seeing this repetitiveness of always running into Murgos and seeing that they are trying to cause chaos, trying to overthrow and make it so not everyone will be able to be united. We're going to see if that trend continues as we move forward. And then we also have the trend of the Black Rider. So we had Asherak for a while be the Black Rider when Garon was young. We still don't know how he knew who Garon was or why he's been watching him and not. But then we have where he erased his mind, made it so he couldn't think about him or talk about him to anybody. And now we see a new Black Rider who we wondered if he could be Asherak at the end of the last set of chapters. And really this is Chamdar, who is working with Zeder and trying to throw them off the trail. So we have this recurring theme of a Murgo or a Grolem being dressed in black and approaching Garon and making Garon forget about him. I don't know if we'll see this again or if Chamdar will continue to show up in this mode, but it is interesting that we've had it with two different Grolems doing the same thing and presenting themselves as the same thing. And the difference this time though is that Chamdar is not 100% solid being at this time. He is kind of insubstantial, and we don't know what that means, if he's projecting himself somehow magically over, and he does state very interesting is that Torak wants Pol to be his wife, so he kind of is there to deliver a message, and this time the trend is a little bit different because he approaches Wolf and Pol and talks to them. So we're going to see how that continues forth as well, so that's just something to keep in mind again as well. Okay, so I guess that is everything for this set of chapters. If there's anything that I missed, anything that you want to talk about, anything I brought up that you want clarified, any comments, questions, concerns, anything at all, I really do mean that. Please comment either down below or let me know in any other way that you would like so I can have a discussion with you. I always like to learn with you and discuss what you think as well. For the next set of chapters, we're going to be reading 11 through 15, and that'll be pages 131 through, sorry, I know I always forget to look up the page numbers, 175, 131 through 175. Yeah. So that'll be for the next Belgariad discussion. That will be what we're going to read. And I would like to just do a simple reminder that we do have a Discord. now for our channel. So if you haven't joined that and would like to join it, we would love to have you. For those of you again who don't know what Discord is, it is just a place where we can all chat together talk about different topics and get to know each other, discuss some fantasy, discuss anything else you might want to talk about, and just get to know each other, have a nice little community. So obviously it's free, you don't have to pay anything, you just have to make a Discord account. You can do so either online or on the mobile app, and give us join us there and meet some new people that are also watching these videos and staying up to date with the classes. The link for the particular server will be down below, so go ahead and find that. If for whatever reason it's not working, you can also go ahead over to my website and click on the Discord at the top, and that will also have the link there. So yeah, I really hope to see you guys there and be able to chat with you and get to know you guys better and have a discussion about whatever you guys would like to talk about, and hopefully you can meet some other people that you don't know who also enjoy fantasy and can share your passion with you as well. Okay, as always, you can comment down below, or you can also reach me at Twitter, which is at fantasyfiction1. You can also find me on Facebook, which is also /fantasyfiction1. So if you don't want to comment down below, you're welcome to see those there. I also post all my updates of what I'm doing on there. You can go ahead over to my blog if you want some other fantasy content or see what else I have out. If you want book recommendations, topics on different kinds of things in fantasy or reading in general, I have some personal things on there. I've got terminology, I've got recommendations, book reviews, all that kind of stuff. If you are interested in anything else, you can go ahead and pop over to www.fantasyfictionfanatics.net and see that there. I also have a contact form over there, so you're welcome to contact me there and to subscribe to my newsletters if you would like to see what's happening and get those from me as well. Yeah, I think that's about it for today. I hope you guys all have a Merry Christmas if you're celebrating Christmas, and that you're having a great holiday season if you are celebrating any other holidays, or if you're not celebrating anything at all. I just hope you enjoy having time off, since everybody else is being able to get time off just by it being the holiday season. Alright, I will talk to you guys in the next class. Bye!